I'm Gabrielle, retired medium in Germany, and I have another part 2 Q&A with my dear friend, and we are talking again about life and death and the soul in the afterlife and things like that, and questions regarding death and everything around it. So here we go.
Hi, Gabrielle. I'm really excited to be here today again with you on your channel to explore some fascinating spiritual topics with you and dive into the mysteries we all wonder about. I'm wondering, for example, that it's common to hear that certain people, when the moment of death is approaching, they are being visited by their deceased family, for example, or maybe by angels or their guides. So I'm wondering why not every person experience this sort of escort during the transition, and only a few ones can experience it.
Well, I think it's happening to all, but not all perceive it. And I had my own example when my beloved husband, the great love of my life, was in hospice and I was with him. He suddenly said at one point, "Why are there so many people in the room when it's only you and me?" And I didn't understand it the time it happened, but now, as a trained medium, afterwards, years later, I understand what he meant. He was seeing deceased loved ones, his ancestors or family, spirit guides and guardian angel, whatever, and I could not see that yet. But I had the feeling that the room was kind of full, and I had decorated it with, nice postcards from friends. I had put there a photograph from the angel Gabriel that I took myself in Turkey in the Hagia Sophia. And probably by doing that, you invite them as well. But I think they are coming to everyone, but not everyone can perceive it because the psychic skills are like a muscle. If you don't train them, well, they're underdeveloped. And it's like in the pragmatic normal world, if you only sit on your couch as a couch potato and never do a workout, then of course your muscles are not very well developed. You have to go to the gym and do some things, and then you get stronger. And it's the same with the psychic skills. You have to use them and train them.
Okay,
Does it
that
make
makes sense.
sense?
It makes total sense, yes. So we are always accompanied, but it depends on whether we are sensitive enough to see physically the beings that are coming to help us at that moment, or not, right?
Yes. And I have another little experience, if you allow. After my husband excarnated, I had this one moment a few days later. I was driving home from the clinic with only the bag and his clothes. That was all that was kind of left. And I wanted to enter into self-pity. I was driving in my car back home and was kind of thinking, well, now I can never embrace him again. And suddenly it was like in an amphitheater that popped up in a half circle above and around me. I felt the presences of many, many beings, angels, guides, whatever, nebulous figures, and I heard them all, and they were many. I heard them all talk with one voice. They said, "You are never alone. We are always with you." And then I started crying, but out of happiness, because I could feel that I wasn't alone. It was only my brain talking me into, oh, he's gone now, he's dead, and blah, 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 and self pity and all this. And it just washed away all the false sorrow and grief I was creating by myself, because it was such a strong energy and the voice was so touching, and feeling they are many and they are so in unity consciousness that 20 or more guides and helpers talk with one voice to you, saying, "You are never alone. We are always with you."
That must be so loving and so comforting, isn't it? Because it makes you feel better, good, accompanied. And we are so used to the matter, to the physical stuff, that we never see what is invisible.
It's exactly that. We don't know that there is so much more around us which we cannot yet see with our
How
3D
about
eyes.
what happens with the soul of a person who is in coma?
That's an interesting question. I remember that I knew a guy who spent several years in coma, and he even wrote a book after that about what he experienced on the other side, because he came back with all the memories. And that was a lot of kind of learning lessons, what he was describing in his book. And I think it is like a prolonged sleep. When you sleep at night, your soul travels and is in other dimensions beyond the veil, passes through the afterlife, and then gets up to higher dimensions. And the same is for people in coma. But as they're still with their body there and the body isn't dead, you know. So when family and relatives come to the hospital and they touch his hand and speak to him, he also hears that and feels the touch. But he's on the other side with his consciousness and his soul. So he's with one leg on the other side and one leg still here, while a dead person has both legs on the other side, you know, so to
So,
speak.
so it's like as if they are on an astral travel, right?
Yes,
Like we do when we sleep. So,
exactly.
okay, okay,
And I
interesting.
didn't remember that that guy in the book described some of the things I know from Hindu tradition. He was talking about, you know, you're confronted with your character. So he was on the so-called, in Hindu tradition, the island of Hungary. There are people who always loved to eat and drink, you know, and take in more and more and more. And when you die, you still have that desire. But on the other side, when he passed through the island of the Hungry, he saw these people in kind of a form of a figure, nearly like the person looked, and they had no mouth. So
Oh,
they could not eat, but they had the desire to eat. Imagine what kind of lesson or torment that is. And the Hindu tradition has a lot of stories like that. And I found it so funny that the guy was writing that after coming back from the coma in his book that he wrote after he recovered from the coma. And he has been a year or so, he was in coma because he was attacked with a knife as a band musician in London. So that's a strange story, isn't it?
okay. So now, according to your perspective, how can we best prepare ourselves and or our loved ones to the moment of death?
Well, the best preparation is, of course, to know and accept, or at least leave open the door for the possibility that there is life after death. Because if you don't believe in anything, and for you nothing bigger than you yourself and your body and your life exists, then you will have the great surprise on the other side that you find yourself in your etheric body and you think you're still alive because you feel the etheric body and the emotional and the mental, and that's well, that's not so weird and strange, and you don't miss the physical body. And there are stories of people who still go to work because they're not aware that they died, and they get angry because another person is sitting on their chair and doing their work on their desk, and they don't even react to them when they speak to them. They don't listen, they don't see them, they don't hear them. And some of these souls that can't let go of the body life from 3D here on this side of the veil, they even start then the spooky phenomena, you know, just throw around a coffee mug in the office, or suddenly a chair is moving and things like that, because they are angry and they have not understood that they are dead. That's why the Tibetans had this wonderful practice. When somebody died, they had the body for 3 days kind of staying there, and people could come and say goodbye, the family, the neighbors, whoever wanted. And it was kind of an honor and a duty for one of the family members to kneel beside the ear and speak into the ear of the dead body so that the soul still can hear it. You are dead now. Go courageously into the light. And the Tibetans knew about all these different places in the other world, or the afterlife and the beyond. So there is the Bardo Todao, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, that describes some of the experiences and some of the places you have to pass through as a soul on the other side, you know. And I know from people in medical care that you can even look that up on the internet. The fetus, the first thing the fetus is building is the ear and the hearing. And the last thing that's leaving when you're dying in your body is the ear. So if you speak to a 3-day dead body into the ear and tell them, you are dead now, go courageously into the light, well, that's the best service you can do to somebody who was dying, you know. And the people themselves could inform, before they are dying, inform themselves about what they are interested in, and that there is an afterlife, and that the soul is eternal and can never die. So with your subtle bodies, you pass through the veil, you leave the material, physical body here. And then on the other side, yeah, there's still your consciousness, and you're looking around, ooh, I can still see everything, my family, why are they crying? You know, that could give you a hint. Oh, they're crying because they think I'm dead, and they're crying over the dead body, but you're still there and you're alive. And if they're not trained, you can't make contact with them because they don't react.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what many modern souls who did not believe any longer in anything like that, they have these experiences on the other side.
But is there any ritual, any, for example, an ointment that could be useful to use in that moment?
There are a few. I came across something when my husband was in hospice. Suddenly, a young nurse came in and she brought a little bottle of rose oil and told me, when the point is coming close, the hour is coming, then put some of the rose oil onto the soles of his feet. That will help him cross over easier. And 2 weeks after he crossed over, I already had an appointment with another medium, and I wanted to know whether my impression that I saw him dancing on the other side, you know, happy and everything okay. I wanted to have a confirmation, and I called this woman up. I never saw her, only talked to her on the phone. And she said, yes, yes, he's already in the light, and he's sitting here with me now, and was already 15 minutes early to await your phone call because he wants me to translate. And the first thing he asked was, are you angry because I left you? And I searched in myself, and we had such a wonderful love and relationship. And I said, no, even if I would like to, I cannot be angry with you, and I have no problem with you. I only want to know that you're good on the other side. That's all I want to know for the person I love, you know.
Mm-hmm. Of course,
So
it's all what we want to know about our loved ones.
the only important thing.
I would also like to talk about our much loved pets. So in those cases where they are dying, is there anything that we can do to help them cross over?
Before a pet, whatever, cat or dog or horse or whatever, is suffering, you can always go and take the help of a veterinary to kind of bring them to sleep and help them over. They are not angry about that. I had my own experience with that. I had a client with a dog, and the dog was very sick for a long time, and she was a homeopath, and she was really worried about bringing the dog to sleep to help him cross over. And she called me as a medium, and well, I wasn't very fond of telling her that I already saw angels standing around the dog, you know. He was still alive, so that for me was the sign, oh, he will cross over soon. And luckily, she was sensitive enough, and during our talk, and I tried to avoid to tell her he's going to die and better help him cross over. She said herself, well, I think the dog wants to go and to leave. And I said, yes. And I was relieved from the pain I had to tell her that, because she had the feeling herself and expressed it and asked me, and I could only confirm. And I said, yes, that's my feeling. I see the angels already standing around. So they're ready to take the dog to the dog's heaven, or whatever you want to call that. So they're not angry. I had clients that called me up because of a pet that died. And the first thing the pet said was, I'm okay. Everything is fine. I thank you for the time I could spend with you, and you were a lovely owner. I love you. And I even met my own childhood dog in a very special meditation from my mediumship trainers. When I came to that special door that is in front of the kind of, the soul's place, that was a different meditation, walking through landscape and opening a gate and then coming to that special place and entering it. At the gate, the dog of my childhood was already waiting for me. And it was, he was a black-haired Cocker Spaniel. And he had already on the gate there, he had gray in his snout, in the fur, and he was kind of jumping up and down. There you are, there you are. And I thought, wow, how can I meet you here? You are dead and I'm alive and just doing a meditation. And he said, this is the soul space here. You can meet me always. And he was so much wiser and told me some things, and I could learn from him. And it was a great relief for me to understand they also are never gone, like our deceased loved ones from family or relatives, our mom and dad or grandpa and grandma. There are very easy methods to contact them, you know.
Do they go to the same place as we do?
It all depends on frequency. And the frequency you have while you're here in the body is kind of determining your state of consciousness. And on the other side, you will go to the place or space that matches your frequency. So there are, like Yeshua said, there are many mansions in my Father's house. There are many places and spaces, but a very common one is that of the English spiritualists called the Summerland of the spiritualists. That is kind of a garden and a meadow, and there are flowers that never deteriorate. I never saw a single crumbled, dead, or dried leaf there. It's always in the perfect state. And there are the pets running around on the meadow, and there are cats playing with dogs, what they never did here on this side. You know, there are horses. Every pet is there, and they're in heaven just like the people. And I met people there as well. And I think in the last video, I talked about the children I saw there. And I was thinking in my human mind, oh, are all these children dead? You know? And then one of them came running to me and told me, no, we're having our afternoon nap or something like that. So in meditation and sleep, you always visit other dimensions and other places and spaces beyond the veil.
So beyond the veil, I understand from what you say that animals are with animals, that children are with children.
No, they're all together.
Okay.
The animals were on the same meadow where the children also were running around and playing. There was no difference.
And how about the rest?
They were also there, the adults, but they had kind of manifested, of course, in this big space that is like a great garden. They had manifested their own homes. So they had houses there, like built from thought on the other side that matched their houses they had here. So they create on the in their space there on the other side, they create kind of circumstances they are used to, and animals don't need that, you know. They feel best when they run free around on the meadow in the sunshine, and the children like to play outside, but they can create their homes, they can do anything there via thought, you know. Some spirits even learn to telekinetically move things on this side of the veil, because you can't, like in the film Sam, this ghost on the other side with Whoopi Goldberg, I think, he had to learn not to touch the mug, because he's of a different physicality, his hand goes through the mug, which is dense 3D material, and he had to learn to move the mug by the thought, you know, just thinking of that the mug should move. Like we don't think, but it's working like that. We don't think now I have to send the command into my arm to raise the hand and wave, you know. It's you want to wave and you just do it, you know. And on the other side, it's the same, but they have to train that. And so they're much closer to telekinetic phenomena and things like that, if they want to go and specialize in that and become a spook or a spooky phenomena on this side.
Mm-hmm. And do we encounter our animal friends when we cross over?
I'm pretty sure I encountered my childhood dog, and I had many clients with dead pets, and I saw the pets and I gave them messages from the pets. So I think they are waiting there for you, and they are very happy and jumping around when you arrive. And you don't have to die to see them. You can meditate and call them in, or you can go into your heart space and connect with your soul in your soul space. And there you can call forth whomever you want to meet, your pet dog, your grandpa, a master, your guardian angel, whomever you want. Just call them into your sacred heart space, the soul space, and you can meet them there. Of course, you need a little bit of training with meditation and going to these special places. And our consciousness translate that as a garden or as a house or whatever, you know. But it's another dimension and it's another frequency. But love is the bond. Whom you loved here, love never ends. Might be a pet or a person. You are always connected via the bonds of love, so you can meet them and you will meet them if it's important and necessary for you and the other one.
All right. So, well, all of us who have experienced the euthanasia to our animal friends, we know very much about how tough that moment is. So it's so comforting to know that they are being accompanied in that moment. So we would like to do our best while they are still here and suffering, to help them in any way that we can. So how can we know if our friend is ready to go, or if they prefer to suffer a bit more, because so that helps for their soul evolution or whatever reason? It's normally via contacting a medium or an animal communicator, which is really helpful and recommended.
Yes.
But if it's not possible, is there any other way that we can be sure or ask for a sign? Or
Really the tough moment for the owner, not for the animal, because the animals, they know where they come from and where they go to. Only we think differently because we're so kind of brainwashed with false information. And some don't even believe that an afterlife or things like that exist. So they cut themselves off from that possibility. I think it's a good idea for somebody not trained with his psychic skills to talk to the animal and try to get a feeling from them, because or sit with them just in silence and feel into it. You can even ask the animal, do you want to leave or do you want to stay? And then you have to become quiet, like if you're asking a question in your sacred heart space, to receive the answer. And the animals, they already are telepathic, only that we don't understand it, you know, because we're not trained. And I still have some problems to understand the cat that's now coming to visit me, and I still talk with words, but we are getting along quite good. I told her, you know, I'm a dumb big old human, so please show me what you need and what you want. And this visitor cat that does not even belong to me, when she comes into my balcony door and walks straight to the kitchen, sitting in front of the refrigerator, I know she wants some food, so I give her some food. Okay, no problem. This is easy to understand. It's a bit harder when this moment comes because we have a lot of emotions, you know, oh, I love my pet. I don't want the dog or the cat to die. Of course, you don't want that. But if it's time for the cat and the dog and you keep them longer as necessary, you're only prolonging their suffering. And you have to feel into them. You can even ask them and see what you get as an answer, or ask for a sign, you know. Just yesterday, I met with somebody I knew, and he told me that he had a question, and he spoke out his question to the universe and asked for a sign that to him would show a yes. And then two times in short distance from each other moments, he had the encounter of finding three of these little fluffy white feathers from birds, and they were all lying together. Happened the first time, and he thought, should that be my answer? And then he walked on, and again little white feathers, and he said, "Oh, okay, now I get it. This is my sign. Thank you." Imagine a
Absolutely.
human asking for a sign, then the sign comes, and then you doubt the sign. What are you doing, crazy one? You ask for a sign, you get one, and you still doubt. How can spirit world contact you if you are in that mindset?
But it happens because you doubt about everything, and sometimes it
Only
has
the
to
ego.
happen 3 times before you believe.
Yeah, but it's only the ego and the brain, the mind that doubts. The heart knows. It never doubts. It knows what is right and what is wrong. And if you have that little voice of the conscience still working within you, you can feel and hear that telling you, oh, that was no good. You should do better, or you can do better next time, or things like that, you know.
Hmm. Okay, so what do you recommend in relation to when we have to practice euthanasia to our animal friends? Is it better to practice that at the veterinary clinic, or is it better to do it at home, surrounded by their things? What do you think?
I mean, if you feel into yourself, of course, you would like to be in your well-known surroundings. So I guess the animal would also love to, but in the end, the place is of no importance. The only important thing is that you are with the animal, give it the last stroke and the last love, and say your words of goodbye. And that's even more important for you than for the animal. They know that love never ends, and that they will meet you sooner or later one day when you cross over, or when they're able to get into your meditation and send their little greeting. Suddenly during the meditation you have to think of your deceased dog. That is no coincidence. That's the dog saying, hi, I'm there.
Okay, I see.
Fine. And every kind of suffering we know on this side is gone on the other side. There is no one suffering, except for the ones who are stuck and choose to suffer. But usually, all the body pains, the illnesses, everything is gone, you know. Even a person who lost a leg is with two legs on the other side, because the etheric body is always complete. Even if they amputate a leg here in the material, in your etheric body, you still have that leg.
Hmm.
The funny
Okay.
thing is that I once read about something happening in China, where a little boy who lost his little finger while playing, and he wasn't well educated and didn't know about modern science telling you you can't regrow a finger, and he had he had played with salamanders in the water. And if you touch them on their tail, they can throw off the tail and regrow it. And that was his knowledge, because he watched it while playing with them. So to him, it was natural, and he regrew his finger. And all the doctors and physicists said, how is that possible? You know, well, we're kind of infested with too much wrong knowledge and false thinking. That's it. And that's very often hindering the direct good and positive access to these things.
Hmm. Yeah, indeed. And the last question in relation to the our animal friend, is there any time recommended where it's better to leave their bodies after crossing over for a certain period of time before being buried or incinerated in order to let the energy release the way I understand it works?
Okay, with humans, I go with the old rule, let them rest for 3 days so that the soul can recollect the harvest of lessons and experiences and learn things from this life. Because animals don't have that strong of a brain and a mindset, they don't need very much time. But I remember when the cat of my neighbors died on my porch, I had to arrange what to do, and I had to phone the neighbors who were in holidays, and I asked them, what do you want me to do with the body? And they said, what was my idea as well, would be best to bury him in the garden, you know, the body. Then it's close still to their home, and she can look there and plant a tree or a flower. And whenever she looks on the flower, she thinks of the cat and renews the loving bond between them. So That took one day, and the next day they had arranged that the brother-in-law was coming with his wife, helping me to bury the dead body of the cat in the neighbor's garden where he had lived with his owners, you know. So he had one day of rest that just occurred naturally. I think I would give at least a little bit of rest. You don't just when the pet died, you just dig a hole and throw him in there. No, I don't think you do that. And I had to keep him for one day, but of course, one of the natural reactions was I put a little blanket over his body, so to cover him, you know. That's also a gesture of love and protection. And the soul of the pet still gets that because the soul is still around, you know. My neighbor woman told me even after she came back from the vacation and the cat was already buried in her garden, she said, sometimes, it was already weeks and weeks after that happened, she said, sometimes I have a feeling as if he's still around. And as I opened up to my neighbors after years and years and told them, well, I'm a medium, I told her, yes, and I can see him. He's still here. He's coming and looking after you, whether you're doing fine, and he wants you to do fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I said that was the last question, but something else came up as another question. Hopefully, this is the last one. Is the what is it better than to bury them or to incinerate them?
This I don't know. I know it's easier for humans to be cremated to kind of cut the connection between the lower self and the higher self so that the higher self can easier go to its matching frequency, place, or space on the other side. As animals don't have the brain and they are not thinking like us, you know, they're kind of whoosh, they're there. So it doesn't really matter. I don't think that it matter for animals. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I could never prove it or say it as a golden rule, do this and do that. Just sense into yourself. What do you feel? What do you want to do? And usually, normally, you get the right impression what you want to do. You don't have to cremate your pet. They have no problem to leave the body. Much more easier than humans, because they don't cling to it. They know in every cell of their body without being able to think. They know because they are also a soul with consciousness. They know where they're going to. They're going to heaven or whatever we want to call that.
Mm-hmm.
So to them, it doesn't matter. The problem is always only here on this side with the people grieving and thinking, oh, you know.
And coming back to humans, after death, is it recommended to do some ceremony, like, for example, in cases of Catholic people doing a mass for the person who crossed over, or is it that important as the religion has sold it?
Well, depends on the relatives because they are the ones doing or deciding about that. And if the deceased one did not leave any wish what he wants or she wants, then you have to make a decision and you can only act upon how and what you feel about that. But I remember an incident that was a bit weird to me. I wanted to see a friend who had committed suicide, and he exited the church. His parents still were Catholic, very, very Catholic. So that was already a taboo that he took his own life. And first they did not want. And then suddenly they arranged that I don't know the name in English, but there is a kind of place and institution that takes the body and arranges for the funeral and everything. So he was in there in kind of a cooling space. And they arranged that I could go there and see him for a last time and say my goodbye. And of course, when they brought him out in the coffin, they had crossed his fingers like a praying person. And well, I said my goodbye to him and I wished him a good passage and everything well and good on the other side. And then his parents came that did not want to see him because he had hanged himself and they were frightened. Maybe he looks horrible and they had found him like that. So they were still in shock. And they used the opportunity they provided for me to see him once again in a better state, so to not stick with the last horrible picture. And that was even good that they did that. But the mother did something I did not like that well, because she was so Catholic, that was her belief, but she knew that he exited the church and did not want to have anything to do any longer with the Catholic Church. She came and she fumbled a necklace with a cross around his fingers, And when she did that, I myself was kind of inwardly inside myself jerking and thinking, oh my God, what's she doing? That was surely not his will. That was only her will to calm her, in her grief. Okay, I can understand that and I don't judge it, but it was against his will.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you have to be able to take a step apart from your own wishes and your own ego and whatever you think, and try to think into yourself, into the shoes of the others. What would he would have liked, or what did he would have wanted, or she, or whoever,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So
so
it's not about you, it's about the other one. And if you want to do some ritual, have a mass or whatever, then do it. But you can also light a candle in your living room and put a picture there, and you don't even have to go to the cemetery and say your goodbyes there, because they're around you, they can hear you, you can talk with them. And you can even sometimes feel their answer in your heart. You feel a warm rush, or you get goosebumps because they're around, and they answer. Only we don't understand. We are the problem, not they.
so now that you mentioned about that case where this man committed suicide, I'm just wondering about those cases of suicides. Is this part of the soul contract that we plan before incarnating on Earth?
I think so. Because if no soul would make that experience, then there could not enter into the collective consciousness of humanity enough of that experience, with all the 360-degree view of the grieving relatives that ask themselves, why did he do that? And he on the other side, wow, I wasted my body, I wasted my life, I could have stayed, maybe I could have become better and find help for my depression or whatever, I saw a lot of suicide spirits on the other side that were very, very sorry, and they kept sticking around their parents or their friends and trying to commune with them and communicate. I'm so sorry. Now I know better. I wouldn't do that again, things like that. And well, that's kind of sad, because there's also another possibility. If you ever heard of walk-in souls or soul swap, there are souls standing in line for a body, and they don't want to have the whole journey of being birthed and growing up through kindergarten, school, and all this difficult time and experiences. And before you want to kill yourself and kind of throw away your body, you can make a soul contract. Some did it before, but you can also make it in the moment and say, okay, if there is a soul that wants to walk in and use my body, and I can go out because everything's too hard and too much for me here, I want out now, they can do that. And I even met some people that knew that they were walk-in souls. That happened after an accident, a car crash, and the new incoming soul has to take all the obligations that the former person had and the former soul had. So they keep up the relations, the family, the marriage, but they bring a different energy. And suddenly, after something like that, a near-death experience or a heavy car crash and something like that, an accident, the other people, the family, notices that, well, he's changed. Suddenly he's interested in spirituality or some things he never would have looked at before, So they're keeping the obligation to do as what the other soul would have done before in that life, but they're adding something new, because the new walk-in soul brings other qualities, other interests, and has kind of their own way, And they can use a body then, and they don't have to get birthed and have all this horrible grow up and things like that. So there is a solution for everything,
it's always based on an agreement between both souls.
Yes, has to. Otherwise, it's not working. A contract always needs two to agree. If only one wants walk in and the other one is not okay with that, then it will not happen. That's the world of free will.
That's a very interesting case. So I imagine that in order to do the swap, something has to happen, like an accident.
Yes, or a sickness or something like that. Some kind of heavy or hard moment where the soul can get out and could die. So you're very close to the veil. And then this can happen if you made before this incarnation a soul contract with another soul to walk in and you walk out. Yes, that happens.
I'm just imagining the feeling of the family members. It would feel like it's a different person. So how would you really handle that?
Well, you learn to handle that while going, and there is another character that's kind of added suddenly to the mom or whoever it was. And you have enough situations, like even when a marriage goes apart, suddenly the woman says, "You are no longer the man I married." Yes, he changed. Maybe he changed via life experience, or that was already within him, but only meant to come out when he's older, around 40 or 50 or so. Or he had some kind of near death or near the veil experience via car crash, heavy illness, or something like that, and a soul swap took place.
And does the walking soul keep the memories of the
Yes,
walkout soul? Every memory of
yes,
her life? Yeah.
yes. They have to. That's part of the contract.
And how about if that soul then, after walking in, decides to make a huge change in the person's life?
Happens as well.
No single golden rule for all of that. It's a very individual thing. But usually walk-in souls have a contract with the soul that wants to get out of the body. They cannot just come and inhabit a body near death and then come back and take that body and that life and do whatever they want. They have to fulfill what was written in the destiny of the former owner of the body. And above or beside that, they can bring in their own goals or aims or what they want to accomplish and to fulfill. But first, they have to fulfill what was in the soul contract for the soul inhabiting the body before the walk-in came in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's my knowledge up to now.
Interesting. And coming back to the suicide cases, you mentioned once about the exit doors that we have available. Oh, look at that!
We're talking about pets and things like that on the other side, and she knows, so she's showing up. Those that they know, they get what we are talking about. They get the vibrations and the frequencies. They're with us all the time. We're united in consciousness, only we are not aware. They are, because they come in when we talk about pets and death. That's so crazy.
They understand everything. They get everything better than us.
Yes. Sometimes I think animals are the better humans.
You mentioned once that there are some exit doors present in the soul contract that are available to us in some way. Would you like to develop that?
Yes, there are exit doors, although, as far as I know, a soul is never allowed to take on more than it can handle. So before you incarnate, you have the overview, what you want to learn and what kind of situations would serve you, even a betrayal to learn forgiveness and things like that. But, oh, I lost the track.
Exit doors.
Oh, the exit doors, exactly. If you feel during your life, I cannot endure this any longer and I want to get out, and you commit suicide, or you have this wish unconsciously and then you create a car accident wherein you die, That might be an exit door. I know that my NDE in India was an exit door because I always felt wrong here, wrongly incarnated, didn't want to be here, and kind of wanted to escape. And I even set it up mentally because I, as a Scorpio, this all or nothing, I was like that. I was thinking, I want to find the purpose of my life. And if I don't find it, then the life is of no worth. So I was even willing to die, like I want to seek my truth and find my truth, even if I die. So I created that exit door that was already there kind of before my incarnation. That was one of the points where I could have exited. And in the life review, I saw just the fact that my mother already lost a child. My brother died when he was 16 in a motorcycle accident, and I was 12. And standing there in the Taj Mahal in India, thinking I'm going to die, I thought, wow, I cannot do that to my mother. That will break her. She will never overcome that if another child of her dies. So that was already the point in my own life review where I saw I cannot go. And that's, to me, logically and makes sense that then the tunnel was blocked and I couldn't go through.
I'm just thinking about the different experiences on the NDE where I heard about cases where, okay, you take that exit door, you cross over, and you are offered the option to stay or leave. There are some other cases where they are not allowed to stay there. They have to come back, whether they like it or not. So it seems that these exit doors are present as a possibility, but then there is a further decision from the spirit, from maybe whoever has the authority to make the decision on whether that exit door is valid or not. So
yes, but I don't think that anyone else but you yourself is deciding over you. That was my experience from my life review. It was, in the end, finally, it was me. I had already decided I cannot do that to my mother. So I wasn't yet at the point to realize that includes and means that I'm not going to die. So it had to be shown to me with a blocked tunnel that I couldn't go through the light. Some go through the light, and of course, it's wonderful there, and you don't want to leave. Who would leave paradise and the communion with the divine? But the soul also wants to learn and grow. There's this wonderful story of the little soul. I made a video about that on my YouTube channel. When you're there, after some while, you just want to do something and want to experience something, because just always being in bliss, I think it's getting kind of boring. So that's why souls create an incarnation in the forefront, and they create special experiences or things they want to learn. And I think when we experience it on the other side as if being sent back or not allowed into heaven, that's our interpretation. We only get reminded of what our soul choose before, to experience this and that. And we kind of externalize that so that someone else is kind of a counsel or whatever telling you, no, this is not your time to die and go back and things like that. But I think it's us ourselves. And as we are all one, and it is even said, there is only one consciousness incarnated here, as you and me and all the other billions of people. So if everything is one, it doesn't make sense to me. I just don't get it. Why would you waste the possibility for an experience to bring something and realize something in the material world? Because on the other side, you're only kind of in consciousness, you're kind of creating sceneries, but you don't have the experience. And sometimes even my guides remind me when I again feel like, oh, I don't like it here and I would love to go out and leave this experience. They remind me and say, Didn't you come for exactly that, the experience? And don't you want to see the outcome, the result? And we can assure you the result will be wonderful. You would miss out on that if you kill yourself now or die from whatever, because in this moment you don't like it. That's also why the vernacular saying is so true and really brilliant and helpful. Don't make decisions just out of one moment in a high emotion. Every psychotherapist tells somebody starting a psychotherapy, um, don't do life-changing decisions while you are in therapy. And the vernacular says, sleep over it at least one night and look how you feel tomorrow about it. So this is, I think, very, very important because we tend to make decisions out of the first moment, the first rush of emotion, and we need some distance to that and step aside and think about it more or feel into it. You know, my own sister got me when I was suicidal at the age of 18, and I once opened up to her, and she's a psychologist. And it took me some courage, but I told her that I'm fantasizing about my own funeral because I don't want to live. And she said to me, oh, describe that. And I said, yes, and I'm imagining my friends standing there crying on my grave and thinking, why did she do that? We all love her. And there my sister jumped in and said, yes, and if you kill yourself, you will never experience their love. Now you imagine that they grieve about you, and in self-pity you draw something from that, but don't you want to experience it in your body, that your friends love you? And if you kill yourself now, you cut yourself off from the possibility to experience and realize it in real time, in your life, in your body. So we're very short-sighted. Unfortunately, humans are. That's part of the human condition. That's why it's always good to sleep over something a night and give it some more time to develop and how you feel about it, and even open up and talk with some others about that, because you can't solve everything in your own. And sometimes it's very helpful to get another viewpoint from whomever, a friend or a medium, a psychic, whomever, you know.
Certainly, and free will is always there for us, but there are always alternatives to how we feel, and we can ask for help either to other humans around and also to our guides, to the angels. They always provide.
Yes.
So there's always an alternative.
Yes, but the crazy thing is that many people don't know that they have to ask for help. Otherwise, your guides, even the angels or Source himself, herself, cannot give a helping hand. If you don't ask for help, you can't get it. You can't just expect it by thinking over it. And if you don't verbalize it, then it's not out, then it's not created. And even if you can't imagine any solution, just ask for help. I did that several times. And as a crazy Scorpio, I did it in the last minute when I was kind of lying on my living room floor with the head under my arm, kind of already cut off because of all the problems and difficulties. And I was crying. And then in the last minute, over my lips came, I need help. And just 5 minutes later, I started feeling better. And suddenly I had another idea how to solve that problem, which probably was put into my head or my consciousness because I could never have come up with that.
Indeed.
We have to ask for help. That's even written in the Bible. One of the few passages they did not redact. Ask and you will be given. But who never asks or think he can do everything on himself or herself, well, then you cut yourself off from some wonderful heavenly help. It's just sad and ignorant, unfortunately.
Yes, indeed. So I have no more questions. So I thank you very much for all this knowledge that you have shared and all the clarification on so many things that are unknown or just not as clear as we wish. And it has been very insightful as always. So thank you, Gabrielle.
I have to thank you. It's my pleasure. And the thing is, I learned all that while being a medium. And then after my experiences, I went on researching, and I found in spiritual traditions of Hinduism, Buddhism, or Judaism, or wherever, even with the Sufi, I found a lot of confirmation for the things I experienced. And then it made sense to me. So I love to share whenever I can, because these are my experiences that brought me to that viewpoint or that knowledge. And it's even backed up with some knowledge of sages and mystics and whatever, you know. I love this one saying of a medieval German mystic called Master Eckhart. He was once asked, "How can I come to God?" And he answered, "If you can stay for one moment there where the I, the ego, is not." And that's kind of the aim of meditation, you know, to get rid of the thoughts and get out of the mindset, stay where there is silence. Even Simon and Garfunkel sung about the sound of silence. In this silence, there is the union, the unity with everything. No, it's not that easy, but it is possible, and it's always waiting there for us. And it's nearer than hand and feet, as Yeshua said. It's inside.